Yo guys, today's video I'll be covering on the comparison between Lyndenwoods versus Bloomsbury Residences. And for the guide price that came out for Lyndenwoods, honestly I was quite surprised because it was much lower than expected. Today's video I will also be covering on how to derive a fair value to pay for Lyndenwoods using the nearby resale case studies as comparison. Stay tuned to find out more. The show flat for Lyndenwoods will be open for the next 2 weeks. For those of you after watching this video, if you've liked my analysis and then you want to take a look on the preview, you can feel free to scan the QR code or reach out to me at WhatsApp 84849302. I'll be looking forward to hear from you guys. Alright? These were the guide prices for Lyndenwoods that were sent out last weekend, and I think this was what caught the eye for most of the viewers that viewed over the weekend, and there was 5,000 plus over visitors. You can see the PSF range is from 2001 all the way to 2002. So do bear in mind these are of course the low floor units. Basically they are from 3rd floor or 4th floor depending on which stack. And also do remember that this is non-harmonized project. So when you compare to Bloomsbury Residences, you need to account for the harmonization difference of between 5 to 8% inclusive of the AC ledge. Since the developer was able to launch at such a low PSF, all the more we have to take note on the developer pricing strategy. What this means is that we need to know how much per floor they're going to be increasing by based on the previous launches, and also we need to see what kind of prices is a fair value price to pay for and how much to walk away from. In this video, I'll just be covering a little bit on that. So why was Lyndenwoods able to get this unfair advantage to launch at such a low PSF? For this kind of special land that was rezoned from business park use into a residential use, we won't really know how much the developer is going to be paying for if this was the actual GLS from the normal land bidding. As a result, we don't really have how much the developer paid for the land and also what is the break-even price for the developers. The traditional way of calculating how much profit margin the developer can make from the land cannot be used over here. For CapitaLand, I'm sure they also have been observing Bloomsbury Residences launch day and post-launch sales performance. For that, I think with all the data, CapitaLand wanted to have a stronger launch day sales. You can see for Bloomsbury Residences, they only sold 90 units out of the 358 units on launch day, and this makes up 25% upon launch weekend. So from then, about 2 months has already passed. Another 20+% of the units has already sold post-launch. This brings up the total percentage to be 44% or 161 units out of the 358 units. I'm quite sure CapitaLand is trying to achieve a stronger launch day sales as compared to Bloomsbury Residences. That's why they're gonna launch it starting from 2001 to 2002 PSF range. The next question will be how much they're going to be launching the higher floors. This one is really quite important because for developer, if they want to make a certain margin, I would say they need to price the higher floors higher, maybe in the 2,700 PSF range. But of course, if they want to achieve a very strong sales on day one, then very likely they might not have to price it that high. If they price it anything in the 2004-2005 range for the high floor, right, Lyndenwoods is going to achieve like 70% sales or more if they have the high floors at 2004 to 2005 PSF range. Alright, so now I'll be talking about the main differences between these two projects, namely Lyndenwoods and Bloomsbury Residences. After this segment, I'm quite sure as a buyer, you will know what are the main USP between these two projects and which one to actually pay a premium for and what kind of pricing to walk away from. First up, we have Lyndenwoods. When you look at Lyndenwoods versus Bloomsbury Residences, you can see that the site area is actually bigger by about 10,000 square feet versus the number of units. Actually, Lyndenwoods is having less units at 343. When you compare bigger land size and smaller number of units, actually the land density for this development is slightly lower than Bloomsbury Residences. Another strong point for Lyndenwoods is that it has 70% car park provision compared to Bloomsbury's 40%. And also, Lyndenwoods is purely residential, whereas for Bloomsbury Residences, they have a partial retail component. So for some people, they might think, I actually prefer having a retail component because I don't have to walk so far to get my daily necessities, daily needs. But for Lyndenwoods, because they have a shopping mall right beside them, I would say some of the needs also can be met easily by just walking across. So I think this one is really subjective and up to individual, but overall I feel like in terms of this comparison, Lyndenwoods is slightly edge out. The next part I'm going to be comparing on is the unit mix. First up, we have Lyndenwoods residential unit mix. You can see quite a bit of units come from the 2-bedders, 137 and 92 units catered towards the 2-bedders. And then of course you have a smaller percentage going for the 3 and 4-bedder types. Next up, we have the unit mix for Bloomsbury Residences. For Bloomsbury, you can see the unit mix, right, for the 2-bedders was only at 50+%, whereas for Lyndenwoods already make up 60+%. 3-bedders 26%, 4-bedders 19%, and then the bigger units 2%. Overall, for Lyndenwoods, the unit mix, right, is slightly skewed towards the 2-bedders. Today, if you are a buyer and then you're looking for environment of not too much tenants, I would think Bloomsbury Residences, the unit mix is catered towards this kind of environment, because if you have a certain percentage that is too high in the, let's say, the 1-bedder, 2-bedder, right, I would think the neighbors or the environment becomes very different compared to a development having a more balanced mix. For Lyndenwoods, do expect a higher portion of tenants because most of the 2-bedder buyers, they will be investors looking to rent out their units. The next part I'm going to be comparing on is the site plan. On the left, we have Lyndenwoods site plan versus on the right, we have Bloomsbury Residences site plan. And you can see actually for both developments, right, their facilities are already quite well done. They have most of the facilities, although for Lyndenwoods, you have slightly more from the pickleball court. And also you can observe, right, the greenery spaces are actually for Lyndenwoods site, they have this top left hand corner, a slightly bigger play area and greenery area for running around, maybe for kids or that, and they have a bigger drop-off point over here. Whereas when you compare to Bloomsbury Residences, right, actually even though the facilities is quite on par, but the amount of greenery spaces they have actually is not as much as what we see at Lyndenwoods. When you also look at Lyndenwoods site plan, right, you can see for the two nearest blocks, Stack 6, Stack 7 versus Stack 10 and 11, the distance between these two blocks are actually kind of close, but they don't necessarily face each other. But you conversely, right, when you see at Bloomsbury Residences, for Stack 5, Stack 6 versus Stack 10 and 9, they are kind of close and actually they are facing each other. So for Bloomsbury Residences, they do have this problem for the Stack 5. Maybe if the land for Bloomsbury Residences, if it was bigger, some of the blocks wouldn't be facing each other. I think that would be better overall. But I think seeing what Lyndenwoods did, right, they actually managed to plan the blocks side by side, such that it's like point block kind of facing and they don't face each other directly. However, the main drawback for Lyndenwoods, right, I would say is the AYE facing. This one is something that definitely you need to take note if you are buying for own stay or even for investment, because the road noise from the AYE side definitely is something that you won't experience on the Bloomsbury side, because that side is towards in the middle and less is more quiet. The next component I'm going to be talking about is the distance towards the MRT. Because for Lyndenwoods, as advertised, it's going to be between 5 to 6 minutes walk towards Cambridge MRT and it is fully sheltered. Whereas for Bloomsbury Residences, definitely it's not going to be within walking distance, and if you were to actually walk, I think it's between 15 to 20 minutes walk. For the next comparison, I'm going to be talking about the future supply and transformation, right, of each area itself. Before the changes in the master plan, this was how it actually looked like in the 2019 one. Of course, in the 2025 one, later I'll be sharing what was the main changes for Lyndenwoods area. You can kind of see like why people are actually concerned, because this is the only residential plot of land, right, but it's surrounded by all the commercial buildings and all the offices. And I won't be surprised, right, for some of the shops, they will actually close on the weekend because there's not enough footfall as there's nobody working in the area. Residents from Lyndenwoods might not be enough to sustain the demand and the rental over there to justify for the cost for people to open over the weekend. Whereas now you can see for Bloomsbury Residences, the area is very different because other than the blue color plots, right, actually they have quite a few that is mixed use in pink color, which is similar to Bloomsbury Residences with a retail component. And on top of that, we also have quite a few plots that is already zoned as residential and subject to detail planning. Very likely these are either HDBs they're going to be launching for BTO soon, or they're going to be doing other future private condominiums as well. When I took a look at the changes from the 2025 master plan, right, you can see these three parts that I've circled in red. Over here in the 2019 master plan, this was actually zoned in blue color, similar to the other plots nearby. But as of right now, they are already changed to the same pink color as Bloomsbury Residences. What this means is that they are going to be residential with retail component on first floor. Of course, this will make the Lyndenwoods area a little bit more centered on the commercial side, But you can see these are all still subject to detailed planning. So by the time Lyndenwoods TOP, I don't think these plots already done with their construction yet. And on top of that, all this, right, we don't know when they will actually start to launch, because if you take a look at Bloomsbury Residences, that area, also a lot of them are pink color and already has the plot ratio determined, but some of them haven't even launched yet. I think the government will try to do up the media circle area first before they even plan to expand out. And if you look closely, actually even with all these plots changed to a mixed use, similar to Bloomsbury with a retail component, they are still across the expressway. So right now for Lyndenwoods, I don't really know if being such a far distance away from all these like residential plots, is it gonna change their livability in the area? Because same thing as I mentioned just now, I still foresee in the weekends, this area definitely will be more quiet as compared to Monday to Friday. But of course, if we look below Lyndenwoods, there is still a couple of blue color plots of land that is also subject to detailed planning. But then, if from 2019 to 2025, they only managed to change these 3 plots from blue to red color, right? I would think you still need another 5 years or longer before the government actually start to change the plots around Lyndenwoods also. This one will kind of give you an understanding of what you're entering today and what to expect 4 to 5 years down the road from 2025. After my sharing, right, what do you think is more desirable in terms of livability? Because when you compare, of course, Lyndenwoods is going to be more towards the MRT side and convenience, but at the same time, although Bloomsbury Residences is not that near MRT, the surrounding area, we could have a lot more residential plots coming up, and this might actually make the area more lively on certain parts of the week. This is going to be quite different from the feels at Lyndenwoods. When I took a closer look for the 2025 master plan on the government's direction, right, you can see actually they're spending a lot of money trying to make up the place to become more livable. You have the Dover Medical Way and also the Media Polis, and they're trying to do the rail corridor with the Queensway node as well. Over here, really you can see trying to make this area, One-North, Cambridge, into just more than a commercial business park and NUH, NUS area, but populated with more residents. I don't know if you actually agree with me. The government already trying to do up this area for the past, I think, maybe 10-15 years, but I think throughout this long period, compared to maybe Punggol or even more ulu areas, here, right, has been much slower to the transformation as compared to, let's say, Bidadari area. This area fundamentally, right, is still quite heavy on the business component, but I can see why the government is just trying to make it more livable. And you can see the government, right, they're trying very hard on this media policy, and they are going to be welcoming new homes close to public transport with good walkability and cycling paths. This was quite interesting because as of right now, based on our definition, Mediapolis doesn't seem to be near any public transport. I think maybe the government could be trying to do the new MRT stop along this Mediapolis area, seeing that they're going to be introducing so much more residential plots. But of course, this one is not 100% confirmed. But the fact that they're announcing close to public transport, it does raise some questions on my end. And on top of that, right, you can see for Cambridge MRT station, it's going to become like an interchange similar to what we see at Jurong East area, because the studies are also ongoing to extend the Jurong Regional Line to connect with the Circle Line at Cambridge station. As a result, I do really see, like for example, Lyndenwoods, the appeal in terms of tenants, because it's going to be very convenient towards the proximity to the MRT to go other parts of Singapore. And last but not least, you can see the government, they are still trying to do up the media police. They're gonna have a community area that's envisioned also as an exciting community space for sports, pop-up concept, and also lifestyle activities. Really is centered around creating the residential and livability feels. Another component that I want to talk about, right, is the 1 km radius towards Fairfield Methodist. So you can see over here is the article on Nava Grove. Previously when it launched, right, we still don't know whether it is within 1 km of Henry Park Primary School. But same thing for Lyndenwoods. We see overall it does look like it's within the 1 km, but we cannot confirm yet. So we don't know if this is actually a unique selling point of Lyndenwoods over Bloomsbury Residences. But as of now, Bloomsbury is not within 1 km of Fairfield Methodist, but it is still within 1 km of New Town Primary. I think this is the main difference, that potentially if you feel you want to pay a premium, you need to factor all this in. Right now, onto the technical analysis right between these two projects. And today we have the guide price starting from for Lyndenwoods. As a result, I'll be giving away a freebie over here. I'll be doing the cheapest 3-bedroom comparisons for Lyndenwoods versus Bloomsbury Residences. On the left, we have 1023 square feet for Lyndenwoods, and this is on the stack 3 for the 3 bedrooms. And on the right is Bloomsbury Residences 980 square feet unit. This is harmonized, which is exclusive of AC latch, and this is also on stack 5. Let's take a closer look on the Lyndenwoods layout first. This one is a 3-bedroom, very efficient. You can see that this is a dumbbell layout for the 3-bedders, coming with household shelter, and also the AC latch is all on one side at the master bathroom area and kitchen area. This kind of ensures that the master bedrooms and the bedrooms don't have the noise from the aircon. And at the same time, you can see the walkway at the foyer area. There is not much wasted space, but the only thing about this particular layout type, the common bathroom don't have windows for natural ventilation. Other than that, actually is very good layout. Now when we take a closer look on the Bloomsbury Residences layout, you can actually see that Bloomsbury, their common bathroom actually still has the window for natural ventilation, and on top of that, they are still able to fit in a WC in their kitchen yard area. They should be able to match up what we have at, surprisingly, Bloomsbury Residences. They were still able to fit in an additional WC despite being a normal 3-bedroom layout and not a dumbbell layout. This could be a result of being a harmonized project versus a non-harmonized project. Now, which one is more value for money? Definitely, I think this stack 5 980 square feet layout at Bloomsbury Residences is more value for money, because window at the common bathroom and also the extra WC is definitely a very strong point for 3-bedders, especially if you have families, you have helpers. So now we're going to be comparing, right, the orientation and facing for the two cheapest 3-bedrooms in these two developments. So first up, we have Lyndenwoods 3-bedder on stack 3. You can see, of course, this one will be facing towards the drop-off point, not the best facing, and on top of that, you'll be overlooking the AYE side. If you are a lower floor unit, I think it's still okay. For the higher floor units, you should feel most of the noise. Over here, you still have quite a bit of setback from the AYE facing, so maybe not too bad. That will help to mitigate some of the noise. That's why the developer also put all the facilities towards the AYE side. Then now when we look at stack 5 for Bloomsbury Residences, it also has its fair share of advantages and disadvantages. This area definitely is not going to be as noisy as the AYE facing side, because in the media polis, media circle area is not the main road, so it's more quiet. But for stack 5, right, you can see it is facing towards block 63. So your views is also fully blocked. There's not going to be much views, but at least you are still facing partial swimming pool area. Not completely towards the building, not too bad. Maybe you guys can leave in the comment section on which stack you think is better in terms of facing. One, of course, is facing the drop-off point at AYE side, whereas the other one is facing towards the other block, but in a more quiet area, and also is still facing towards the facilities. Both being the cheapest stacks for Lyndenwoods and Bloomsbury Residences respectively. Right now, I'm going to be talking about the per floor jump for Bloomsbury Residences. Over here, I have all the transactions and the asking prices for the units for stack 5. And at the same time, after this analysis, we can kind of form what is a fair price to pay for Lyndenwoods. First up, we take a look at the transacted units on the left side. You can see for stack 5, from 5th floor to 6th floor, you can see the jump is about 8,000 based on the transacted. And then 7th floor to 8th floor is also about 8,000. So based on the transacted prices, right, we're looking at about 8,000 per floor jump, okay? And you can see this is the asking prices for Bloomsbury Residences. For stack 5, the 4th floor, which is the cheapest one, is not sold yet, is asking 2.366 million, 2414 PSF. And then you have from 9th floor all the way to 16th floor is about 8k per floor jump. Then after that, from 16th floor to 17th floor, we have a 30k jump. And then from 17 all the way to 22nd is about 10k per floor jump. That in mind, you can kind of gauge for developers, if they already price it this certain way, I'm sure CapitaLand also has access to this data, and they will very likely price the same way per floor. Now, right, I'm just using a rough calculation to do the same thing for Lyndenwoods. You see, right, for Lyndenwoods 0303, the 3 bedrooms that is 1023 square feet, starting from 2.35 million. If 8k per floor increment, similar to Bloomsbury, we'll be looking at 2.486 million at 2430 PSF. Of course, this is not going to be realistic. I don't believe the developer is going to follow 8k per floor because they still need to factor in the high floor loading. So this will be similar jumps towards Bloomsbury. They got 30k at a certain floor, then after the higher floors maybe it's 10k per floor already. The main theory here is that as long as the price gap is cheaper or not too far from Bloomsbury Residences for the same floor, I think more or less you should be entering a safe entry price. I hope you guys already have some insights as to how I actually help my clients to plan for their purchase at Lyndenwoods using Bloomsbury Residences as a very strong comparison. So if you like a second opinion on whether Lyndenwoods is a good buy for your particular case, or you want to view the preview on the show flat with me, you can feel free to contact me at 8484-9302. And on top of that, if you gain some valuable takeaways, you can leave a like and subscribe on the video. For the next comparison, I'm going to be using One-North Eden versus Normanton Park to kind of get the gauge right of how much premium you should pay for near MRT and how much rental premium you should be expecting. In this case, for One-North Eden, it will be similar to Lyndenwoods, and Bloomsbury Residences will be similar towards Normanton Park. For One-North Eden, it is 7 minutes away towards One-North MRT, and you can see for the recent 3-bedroom transactions, the range is between 6,001 all the way up to 7,003. For Lyndenwoods, it is about 6 minutes towards Cambridge MRT, and then for Normanton Park, of course, it's going to be far away from the MRT. Now let's take a look for the 3 bedrooms, right? For Normanton Park, you can see the recent transactions for the 3 bedrooms ranging between 900 plus square feet all the way up to 1,100 square feet. The range is between $5,000 per month all the way up to 5,008. You can already see the big difference, right, for Normanton Park's 3 bedrooms versus One-North Eden. And do bear in mind, for Normanton Park, it is a mega development, so the facilities, all this definitely will be much better than One-North Eden. But for One-North Eden, it is still able to fetch a much higher rental. Now for the rental comparisons for near MRT versus far MRT. This will kind of give you the understanding of what to expect for the rental yield, right, for Lyndenwoods versus Bloomsbury Residences. Right now, for One-North Eden, 7 minutes to MRT, for between 900 to 1,000 square feet unit range, right, we are expecting an average rent of 6,583. Whereas for the same unit sizes at Normanton Park, the average rent comes up to 5,257. This works out to be a rental difference of 1,326 for the same size, and on top of that, for the percentage wise, it's quite a big gap. We are looking at 20.1% in terms of rental gap. So potentially, if you are buying Bloomsbury Residences over Lyndenwoods, right, don't be surprised if your rental is maybe 20% lower as compared to Lyndenwoods because of the proximity towards the MRT. Now we'll be doing a price comparison on the transacted prices for One-North Eden versus Normanton Park. So this one will also give you how much premium you should actually pay for something that is near MRT versus something that is further away. Now when we take a look for the One-North Eden transacted prices between 900 to 1,000 square feet range, you can see the average pricing to be 2.27 million. Whereas for Normanton Park over here, I also combine and then average out all the prices for the 900 to 1,000 square feet type. The average price works out to be 1.944 million. So this results in the price difference of 300 plus thousand, and in terms of percentage, right, you can see it's 14.3%. If you are a rental yield guy, right, very likely this number is going to be quite important to you, because if you can get like a 20% increase in your rental gap versus you are just paying a 14% premium on the price, then I would think going for nearer to MRT, despite its higher price tag, it makes more sense because you are able to leverage on a higher rental yield as compared to the price. Of course, if your budget is limited and then you can't afford something in the 2.2 million range and you can still look for something in 1.9 million at Normanton Park, then I still think you can enter something there, but just do take note you are going to get a lower rental yield based on what you pay as compared to something nearer towards the MRT side. That comparison, I really think there's quite a few similarities for these two projects versus One-North Eden and Normanton Park. You can see I tabulated everything over here. Price premium of 14% and a rental premium of 20%. So you have MRT premium versus no MRT discount. So do you start to see the comparisons and similarities for Lyndenwoods and Bloomsbury versus just now the two projects? So for Lyndenwoods, right, you can see for the cheapest unit 03-03 at 2.35 million versus the cheapest 980 square feet at Bloomsbury Residences 2.36 million. Price difference of $10,000 results in a percentage difference of 4.2%. Which one would you pick? And judging by just now my price difference versus the rental difference, right, you can already kind of make your own conclusion on which is kind of the better buy long term. There could be a few other factors in terms of like livability of the area that might change the pricing, etc. But overall, I would say using the past resale case studies is a very strong point already, because as of today, when you wait until Lyndenwoods TOP or Bloomsbury TOP, it's only 5 years away. Market rate, right, that we already have the price discovery that is done by market participants in this area. Definitely think you should use that as a very safe gauge. Definitely, I think you should use that as a gauge to determine how much more you should pay for Lyndenwoods or how much more you should pay for Bloomsbury Residences, and what kind of rental difference you should expect going forward. So you must remember, actually throughout the whole video, right, I never say Bloomsbury Residences is not a good buy, but when you look at the pricing objectively, Lyndenwoods does look like very attractive at this price point. Of course, when it reaches a certain point, this is where the data and analysis for each price floor jump will come in very useful, because once you reach a certain price point, I would think that maybe you need to look at other alternatives, which is Bloomsbury Residences. You kind of need to form your own walkaway price for each floor, especially like for example in this case for Stack 3. And even if Lyndenwoods, they really launched the pricing very low all the way up to the top floor, right, I really don't think it will impact the supply and demand of this area that much based on just one project with 300 plus units. Because for these Bloomsbury Residences, maybe it will get stalled a bit because of Lyndenwoods, but the moment when the cheaper units at Lyndenwoods move, right, people will do their own comparison versus Bloomsbury Residences, and I can see both projects moving side by side. But unless the developer want to clear all the units in one shot, I can see Lyndenwoods selling much cheaper. So as a buyer today, if you actually already bought into Bloomsbury Residences, should you be worried if Lyndenwoods actually sell much cheaper? In short, I don't think you should be too worried, because the supply for Lyndenwoods is actually quite low. It won't actually move the market over here, and if anything, they enter at a low price, very likely the buyers are just gonna exit at a higher profits. That's it. It's not gonna affect the resale value for Bloomsbury Residences that much, because I don't see a huge supply that is flooding into the market, because they only have 300 plus units at Lyndenwoods. For my clients, I also help them to look out for other things such as the quantum gap for each bedroom type. For in this case, it's the 3 bedrooms. I also have the Excel sheet ready to prepare for the launch day, and also identifying layout gaps between these two developments, facing for similar layout types, and also price jump per floor. Last but not least, what is a safe entry price and also the walkaway price for each development. If you like this kind of in-depth analysis on Lyndenwoods and also other new launch projects, you can check out my YouTube channel, because I've done similar analysis for other projects for 2025 as well. And also, if you found my analysis useful and you would like something like this, you can scan the QR code or reach out to me at WhatsApp 84849302. Looking forward to hear from you guys. And if you like this video, you can also leave a like and subscribe. Alright, that's all for me today. Thanks. Bye.